Hey guys, again it's Tyler here today. I'm going to be doing a somewhat formal review of the Zonnda-b from DIYPC. Inwin has given us a bunch of 30th anniversary tattoos, and we'd like to give them back to you. The Gleam giveaway is open through February the 28th, 2017. Click now to learn more. So, we had the opportunity to do this review now purely because of the fact that we just got done doing kind of like our first rig update for my rig. So you can check that out up there. In that video, we bought a Thermaltake V27 and we kind of transplanted it. So this is just the case. None of our hardware is left in here right now. So this is the case more or less as you would see it, minus a few expansion slots, and I'll get to that later. So on the outside, this case doesn't look too bad. I mean, you might be able to tell it doesn't have a basement, so you're not going to be able to cable manage your cables through there. You're going to kind of have to deal with your hard drive being exposed, but that's what you get. This case is originally a $35 case. That should be the red flag. You should not buy a $35 case. Some people like to save money. I'm even one of those people. I mean, saving money is amazing, but it comes to a point where you save money or you get good quality. You don't get both. And this case is a pure definition of that. You definitely save money in here. This case is a good $35 cheaper than the V27 that we just bought, but it's not any better in any regard whatsoever. So we'll go into that. This is not meant to be a blow at DIYPC, but it certainly is a message to say that you can decrease the price as much as you want, but you shouldn't really decrease the price down to a point where you're decreasing the overall quality. So we'll leave it at that, and I'll start getting into some of the things that I dislike about this case personally. Now, as more of a preference, not necessarily something that DIYPC did wrong, I am not a fan of the fan on the side panel. I don't like that. The fan on the side panel, I mean, it looks cool when it's running, but then with me, you gotta go into your PC, say, every few days even to mess around with something, like remove a stick of RAM, put one back in, or say you just want to do something basic like recable manage and stuff like that. You have to unplug this, but it's a pain to unplug it while you already and get it off at the same time. Otherwise, you can kind of jankily fold it against there and hope it doesn't fall, because if it falls, then you're going to end up pulling out the 3-pin connector and the Molex connector, and then you've got a problem. So it's not necessarily something that DIYPC did wrong. Some people prefer that. I am not one of them. I dislike side panel fans. I think that they're too unstable when it comes to just the fact that they're going to come undone, or you kind of have to sit them like this, or when you have to plug it in, and then you have to get it on without necessarily moving too much because you don't have a lot of slack with the cables, and cable managing that at all is pretty much non-existent because you can't cable management and then get it on and off because the zip ties are going to hold it down. So there's a whole bunch of things with that aren't necessarily great. Now, one thing that I've seen before that happened to me as well is I saw a review on this case itself that said that the front fan wasn't working. Now, coincidentally, mine had the same thing happen. I would recommend not getting this case just for the fact that you're going to run into a fan that won't work, at least 2 out of the however many sales that they've sold of this case. This case comes in a few different variants. There's a blue and black one, which you can see I've clearly got here. The LEDs are black, or the LEDs and the fans are blue. The case is black, so that's that. And then there's a white and orange, a white and silver, and I believe there's maybe a red variant out there as well, but they're all the same when it comes to quality, so keep that in mind. DIYPC cleverly used this operating disk drive, and I believe there was one for the, no, they were just for the operating disk drive, hookups for their case. I didn't like them so much for the fact that I couldn't get them on after I took them off. I could get 2 of them off originally, and then I couldn't get the rest back on. I don't really understand the point of them, I suppose. So that's not on DIYPC's fault either. They are supposed to go in like this, and then you turn them so that you can't get them off, and you turn them back, and then you get them off again. Now I couldn't get the other ones back on, so I guess I understand the basic mechanism of how they're supposed to work, and they're supposed to lock in the operating disk drives. But like I said before, I couldn't get the other ones back on. And I can clearly get this one back on. I mean, it's not coming off anyway, but then when you unscrew it, then it comes back off. So that's that. I'll put that down. I guess quality-wise, another thing that I have to complain about is the PCIe slot covers, and you're going to see that in a second. This is just cruel. This is painful. This is something no case manufacturer should ever have to do. You should not ever have to give up this much quality for pricing. I understand that you're appealing to a new layer of people, but in my opinion, I'd rather buy a case secondhand than to buy this case. Buy a case secondhand that's a little bit cheaper, or it's on the cheaper end because it's secondhand, but it'll be, if you've done your research, it'll be better quality than this. So, yeah, that sound that you just heard, the two of them, that's the PCIe slot covers coming off. They don't pop out like a normal PCIe slot cover, no. They're partially, I would say, welded to the case itself. Then you have to tear them off like that in order to get them out. Now, you might be thinking, well, how do they go back on? They don't. Not at all. Maybe a blow at quality here, but you shouldn't be able to bend them. You shouldn't be able to bend PCIe slot covers. This would have worked as a better screw than the screws that came with the case. Seriously. I can form these into a screw. That's pathetic. That quality right there isn't something you should never have to give up that much quality to assure the consumer a good price. Because at that point, your cases are just fraud. You're going to say that, oh, it's a $35 case and it's got so much room for hard drives and it's got front panel audio and everything, but then you're going to offer them bendable PCIe slot covers? No. Those are, no. This is kind of the frame for this. Okay, you get what you pay for, but you shouldn't have to drop your quality down so much to the point where you're assuring your consumers fraud. I mean, people who are just going to buy this case and put a computer in it and never go into it ever again might not necessarily have an issue with it. If their computer comes with a broken fan, like mine and one other reviewer at least had the same problem, then they'll notice it. Then they'll notice that they're not getting the front fan. They might run into thermal throttling. I mean, the LED still shows up, so they might not notice it at first, but it's just a problem waiting to occur, right? So that's another issue, is that somebody who buys the case not from a really like an enthusiast standpoint, but just somebody who puts together a computer for the fact that they want to save a little bit of money, still should not drop down to this case. I recommend Thermaltake View 27. You can check out our unboxing of that up there. That case has got so much more open room. It doesn't have this little bit of an indented slot right here for the hard drives, which is excellent. It's great. It's got a basement for cable management. It's got more of a backspace for cable management, which I'll show you in a second here. See, the back on here, it comes out another, probably about an inch. It comes in, it slants out an inch, but then it doesn't actually come out a full inch, so that's worth noting. So it probably slants about with an inch width and then comes down, and then you've got a little bit more room here. So that might lead people to think that there's cable management. But if you check all the reviews on Newegg, and if you check my review, which I'm giving you right now, you'll realize that there is no cable management. There are, altogether, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes where you can throw cables through. But that's not necessarily something that you would want to do, because when you have a cable such as big as the 20 plus 4-pin connector for power that you're going to have to give to the motherboard, running through the back of this, it's going to end up pushing so much pressure against this that you're going to either damage the cord or you're going to damage the connections that the side panel on the back goes and connects to the bottom with. because that much pressure isn't meant to be pushing against this. You could damage thumb screws at that rate because you're not going to be able to push against all that force that's already pushing the side panel out. So you really can't mount too many cables back through here. Front panel is fine. They're thin cables, and it's necessary to run them back through here because otherwise you just get entangled through running them through the front. One thing that I don't like about what DIYPC did that the Thermaltake did, we just went and unboxed the Thermaltake case. If you look at all their front panel headers, they're all individual cords. Now, this one's an individual cord. They're all individual, but what I would like to see start becoming more widespread is Thermaltake's use of kind of cabling them all together as one cable, and then when you get to the front panel, they split off into separate connectors. So instead of them all being separate, like you've got a yellow cable or a green cable here, a yellow cable here, a blue cable here, and a red cable here, Thermaltake had them all be black, and then they were all kind of cabled together and run from the front panel, and then you end up having a lot less problems while routing them. You can use one zip tie to get them all securely. You don't have to worry about them tangling or anything like that. I've had this case for quite some time, and I was waiting for us to get a new case so that I could review this one, but this case is going to end up probably at a junkyard eventually. It's not something you should get. It's not something anybody should get. I disliked the screws that came with it. I found that they threaded too easily because they probably cheaped out the quality there. Although, one comes to think of the fact that you'd have to pretty much manufacture special screws for them to be that low quality, correct? I mean, you can't just take all your other screws that you're manufacturing and then somehow make them lower quality and sell them at a lower rate, because that's just more work. They're going to cost the same rate. So if they're making screws that are lower quality than their other screws for their more advanced case lines, then they're probably spending more money to make those lower quality screws. I mean, I can imagine they're saving too much money by making screws that will thread more easily or strip more easily, that they're making an increase in profit off the fact that they have to find a new way to manufacture those. I mean, we might end up messaging DIYPC eventually and just asking if they can do a revision of the Zonnda case line. It wouldn't take much. I've seen one of their other case lines that costs around $45. It's only $10 more, but when you come with $10 more, you can get better cables or working fans or pretty much anything. I mean, $10 can get you quite a bit. It could get you a sleeve for the front panel connectors. I mean, there's a variety of things it could give you. I don't necessarily know if this relates to DIYPC at all, but I'll just share my experiences here. So, on the front panel, you have a USB 3.0 and two USB 2.0 ports, which are quite nice. In my opinion, I'd like more ports in the front, but the Thermaltake V27 had the same amount of ports in the front, so you can't really make an argument that it's not being done. One USB 3.0, two USB 2.0 seems like a standard for a lot of people, unless you go out and spend more money on a bigger PC case. But I found that I'd often lose connection, or the connection would be jumpy. I mean, I would never plug my mouse in through here, but I've had a hard drive plugged in through here. I've had external CD drives plugged in through here where it would suddenly crash, but you plug them into the back port and you plug them into the back ports, you no longer have that problem. The back ports were being run off by MSI motherboards, so that's a step in the direction into thinking that it might end up being DIYPC's fault as to why that's happening. I'll be sure to keep you updated on whether or not we're receiving the same problems with the Thermaltake V27, because we'll have, like I said before, we'll have one USB 3.0 in the front and then two USB 2.0s in the front as well. But other than that, there's not a lot I can say for this. I mean, you've got bendable PCIe slot covers should just be a no. You shouldn't have to do that. I found that putting in the standoffs for motherboards was extremely hard because you'd run into situations where you just couldn't get the standoff through. Now, because it was one of my first PC cases altogether that I've ever bought, and I was thinking, well, standoffs must be such a hard thing to put in, but we just put in standoffs for our Thermaltake V27, And that was a lot easier. It was like 10 times easier. But we tried to put in standoffs for this one. They're stubborn. They're messy. I mean, I've split my fingers open quite a few times trying to put standoffs in and trying to take standoffs out. The standoffs get stuck quite easily, so we have to use pliers to kind of like vice grip them out, and that's not the best way to get them out, but there's not really a tool for it as far as I know. So yeah, that's my review of the Zonnda-b case line. I'd blacklist it. I would not put it on your wish list. I wouldn't buy it for a friend. I would keep this case line out of your mind and keep this in your mind. You get what you pay for. You're not going to be able to cheap out in a case or a power supply or fans and expect to get the best thing possible. It shouldn't happen. You might get lucky. Eventually, you might buy secondhand and get lucky. That's where it can happen. You might be able to buy on eBay and score a deal there, but this isn't something that you should cheap out on. Don't buy cheap things from a manufacturer and hope that they're going to be good, because a lot of times they won't be. So be sure to like or dislike this video. Leave a comment if you've also run into the Zonnda case line, or if you were curious in knowing anything else about it. I mean, I can give you more information. If you thought I missed something, I'd be willing to do that as well. We check the comments pretty frequently. Also in the description below, we have a Patreon link, which you can give a monthly donation to us as a company, and that helps us out. Also in the description is an Amazon affiliate link, which you can set as your bookmark, and that helps us because we get a small percentage back from the sales that you get through Amazon, which is nice. But other than that, just be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.